Hi there, welcome to Island Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Gemini energy. And we're going to do this 10 card spread, and we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because life's about learning lessons, and we all have our more shadowy nature. And, that can be lazy or selfish or prideful or defensive or immature, egotistical, more materialistically self-indulgent focused. And some people have learned more of those lessons than some other people. And Gemini energy is about our free will nature and what our truth is. And, everybody's truth can be different. And some people are more motivated and inspired by love. Some people aren't. And then there's the people who haven't decided yet. And if you're someone who hasn't decided, you probably want to hang out with someone else who hasn't decided. If you have decided truth and love is, how you want to live your life and build a foundation upon, you probably want to find other people who are in that energy. And people who might be more about themselves or these things of the world, they probably want to find people who are kind of on that page. But sometimes we get ourselves in some mismatched relationships, so if we're willing to see the truth of it, learn the lessons we were meant to learn, then we can kind of move on. Not give up our dreams, just realize our dreams couldn't come into reality with those people. Get one more card out here. Okay, I'll take that one. Okay, so I view this as the overarching reason for the reading, which is the letter card, which is Gemini. It says message, document, news, mail, text, contract, communication, expression. But we kind of have a contract with ourself in our Gemini nature of what our truth is. If a person was a little more shadowy, they probably don't want people to know. Loving people might be loving, but other people aren't willing to open that up and invest in it because they're not sure if they want to do love. And people are communicating with people all the time in a way by what they do and what they don't do and their actions. But at the end of the story, we come out with the main male, and the masculine figures can represent how people are presenting themselves in the world, male or female, and they're taking some type of action, male or female. So the way I read tarot, the masculine figures can represent how we're presenting ourselves in the world. The feminine figures talk about how we really think and feel. So there's all these people in the world kind of presenting themselves as being a certain type of person. I kind of view this one as like Aries and Taurus energy. I am inspired to present myself in a certain way, to maybe have people view me a certain way. Some are trying to present themselves in a way so people will want to be in a relationship with them, but they might not really be who they say they are. Other people are kind of more inspired to walk the talk. And people might be communicating with people or not communicating with some people since this isn't open. So what's going on in Gemini energy? We have the bouquet card, the main female, and the moon. So Virgo energy talks about what we invest our time, energy, and effort into. And emotionally, everybody is invested in a certain way of viewing life. Some people are caught up more in the illusion of the world or themselves, or have illusions about what it means to be in a relationship. And if that's how they think, that's probably how they're going to continue to think. Some people like to be in relationships with people. The moon can talk about being in relationships with people who don't know the truth of who they are. Then we have the anchor card and the sun. Some people are kind of more shadowy, to some degree, whatever it is that is kind of their issue. They could want to work together with other people, is kind of what Capricorn energy can talk about, to kind of manifest these things in the world. The sun can be a new beginning, kind of looking victorious and successful. But sometimes with the enemy card here, investing in more focused on these things of the world or getting in relationships for not the best reasons, kind of having ulterior motives, trying to maybe present themselves as being inspired by love. The bear card is Taurus energy, and the bear card can kind of represent mothering, loving energy. Some people want to be in relationships with people who are kind of what they view the enemy. Because if your truth is that you're more about yourself or more about ego and image and things like that, but even shadowy people like to work with people who are loving and nurturing and warm, they just could view them as someone who threatens their viewpoint, because they might want to do love and people to be more authentic and bold and brave and confident, and for some of the shadowy people that's not really the truth of who they are. But if it's good for their ego and their image to work with someone who seems loving and nurturing and bold and brave and confident, they might get in a relationship with them even though they have opposing viewpoints in a way, but they could try to hide that they are more invested in operating from their defensive nature, their egoic nature, or getting in it because it's nice to be in a relationship with loving, nurturing people, but so it's good for their ego and their image, but really they're in a mental prison about love. And if they get in those more mismatched relationships, high vibe people, it's continuing to heal and grow and mature yourself, face your fears, gonna love and believe in yourself, have hope and faith and belief in love, and love grows. And high vibe energy becomes more independent of being more manipulated by their fear and their insecurity and their pride and their ego. And then there's the imprisonment card also is kind of like the Eight of Swords, which is also Gemini energy. I'm in a mental prison about doing love, but I like to be in relationships with people who are loving. But shadowy energy can be that you're kind of in your ego. And people who try to present themselves as a more stable, balanced, loving, nurturing, just, fair person could be kind of jealous of people who really are more just and fair and balanced and loving. Like, why aren't you kind of manipulated by all the things that manipulate me? And the moon can represent like our fears and our insecurities. So then we can put work and effort to kind of hide those things, operate more from our ego, but we still have all these things that are kind of buried beneath the surface that kind of manipulate us, that kind of has us in a mental prison. And then if the high vibe people, the fortune teller can just be, they're listening to their intuition. Again, we kind of go through phases of life. We live life at a certain phase of life. We view life a certain way. And when high vibe people start to kind of get up in their head and start to feel like the reason they're maybe kind of not moving forward in life, and their intuition is kind of telling them it's time to be more bold and brave and confident, overcome some of your fears and insecurities to go to the next phase of life, like love yourself enough, work through your ego and your fears and your insecurities to keep being more bold and brave and confident to just live your more authentic life. Well, the problem is if they get in a more mismatched relationship, the person they got in a relationship was just creating an illusion that this was their truth to begin with. Well, now if the high vibe people are kind of bold and brave and confident and inspired to kind of move forward even differently, well, it's kind of like, how do I fake the next level? I'm faking the level I'm at. It's kind of like somebody putting in work and effort at a workplace to have a new beginning, but they're kind of hiding. They're in a mental prison about really believing in themselves, or that they even want to really put in work and effort. They might just kind of like to more indulge in the relationship. And then what if the workplace is like, we're kind of ready to go move forward kind of in this new way, and they're like, shit, I'm kind of not qualified for the job I'm in. how do I possibly create an illusion that I'm able to go to that next level of a job, you know? And so the same kind of thing happens in a relationship. And then if you're a more kind of hopeful, believing, loving person in yourself and in others and in love and things like that, high vibe people put in work and effort in a relationship emotionally. The other people could try to create the illusion that they're putting in work and effort emotionally, but they're kind of more anchored in to operating from their defensive egoic nature, and it's just, again, kind of an illusion they're creating. And then I kind of think they're always in a mental prison. They know they're not being authentic. They're kind of creating an illusion. And that can be, that they're kind of in it for more ulterior purposes, that then they can always be afraid that the other people are also just creating an illusion. And then the enemy can be where they get all up in their head, in their fear and their insecurity. And I don't think you are who you say you are. And I think you're just kind of trying, because if you're shadowy and you're manipulative, it's always trying to out manipulate other people, right? And because you think everybody is just trying to manipulate other people for their own reasons, right? And then eventually some of the high vibe people in their life kind of realize that, the more shadowy people either are more invested in ego and image, and that's why they're in the relationship. It really isn't because of love. And they don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's more aligned with the competition of defensiveness and ego and fear and insecurity, and doesn't have hope and faith and belief and inspired by love to listen more to love and intuition to guide the decisions they make. And instead, they get up in their head and their fear and their insecurity, and then they could take actions that maybe could be stubborn or prideful or controlling or manipulative in a relationship. And that's not conducive to a relationship moving forward. And eventually, the high vibe people kind of listen to their intuition, and they have to work through all their fears and insecurities about continuing to stay in that job, friendship, or relationship when they've maybe already hadn't wanted to see the truth. But, as time keeps going by, the truth kind of keeps being illuminated because God doesn't want us to live in denial of the truth and live a life of illusion. God wants us to give birth to our dreams, but we've got to deal with the truth. The truth sets us free. And if you've been working together with people and being loving and encouraging and supportive, just like people in friendships can do that, and romantic and workplaces, if the people that we're in relationship with, though, they have to be kind of viewing this as Aries and the Sun card is Leo. You have to be inspired to even want to pick up anchor in an old way of living life and viewing life, to put in that work and effort emotionally. And Virgo energy kind of talks about doing that inner work and looking at those things that manipulate us, and our past pain and heartbreak, our fears, our insecurities, our self-centered nature, whatever it is, our immature nature, whatever, of kind of putting in work and effort or trusting other people or believing in ourselves. Why don't I do that? But that takes work and effort, and you have to be inspired to even want to deal with the truth. The truth sets us free, but we can always choose, I don't want to deal with the truth. I can ignore it. I'll just stay up in my head about love or loving myself, and maybe I'll just keep doing this. If other people see the truth and those people decide to stand up for themselves and stand up for their own more loving, intuitive nature and their truth, and they're not willing to keep indulging me in some poor behavior of some sort, some of those people are like, well, I just need to go find someone else, and then they use their intuition in a shadowy way. Who do I think I can go invest in that might have either another loving, hopeful, believing person that doesn't know the truth about people like me, or just doesn't know me well enough to know that I kind of do align with my more shadowy or egoic or defensive or immature, whatever nature. And I'll go create an illusion with someone new. And some of those people are going out trying to create an illusion with someone new, repeating this pattern over and over and over. And even when for some, it doesn't keep working out, we can all think we're the boss, where I don't have to listen to my intuition. I don't have to love myself. I don't have to invest in emotionally growing and maturing myself and putting in work and effort to align with my more emotionally mature, stable, grounded, self-aware, self-insightful nature. I can just keep creating this illusion. And so then when those relationships maybe don't work out, where they were trying to hide the truth of who they were, and other people found out the truth, well, then they just decide to invest in trying to confuse people about the truth, about why that relationship didn't work out, and hope that some of the people in their life who might love them or have concerns about them or have their own fears and insecurities will keep aligning with them instead of seeing the truth about them, and maybe kind of turn their back emotionally on the people who really were kind of the more stable, grounded, loving, nurturing people. And then they've got those people, that keep working with them. And some of those people might be people who kind of live their life like this too. Sometimes some people who are kind of more shadowy, which can just be even being codependent. I'm more inspired by the world and my ego and my image or people in my life. And I don't want to become more independent of them because I could love those people, even though some of those people don't have my best interests. They don't want me to listen to my intuition. They don't want me to be more bold and brave and confident and live my more authentic life and free myself from things that manipulate me because they don't. But I am too fearful to be more independent and live my more authentic life. So some of the people, even though they're kind of in a mental prison about aligning with some of the people they align with, there's a reason why certain people in their life can manipulate them. It can just be the world, other people who have a certain status and image, other people who might shine bright in the world, other people who seem like they got it going on in the world, or just other people in their life that they could love and it's kind of their comfort zone, but they're just not willing to kind of stand up for themselves in their own life. And then other people who get in relationship with them kind of see that they have these things and these people that manipulate them. And the more shadowy people were just hoping that you'd maybe let all those things or those people manipulate you too. And it's like, I could think that these people, aren't very authentic, kind of seem to live more from their mind than their heart, kind of might be a little more, if they're more about themselves or the world or their ego or their image, that alone would make them more superficial and shallow. And I kind of like to be in relationships with people who are bold and brave enough to work together with people from love, where they're just more authentic. And sometimes some people can like being in a relationship with you. You could be a loving and encouraging person in their life. But if there's other people in their life, whether that's a friend group or people in their family or something, that those people don't like, that you're kind of encouraging someone, whether that's a friend of yours or a romantic interest, to love and believe in themselves and listen to their intuition and be more independent, well, that can be when those people kind of see that someone who used to be more in a mental prison seems to kind of be freeing themselves from some of those things. Well, then they don't like it. And then they say, you shouldn't hang out with those people anymore. And that's when these people get up in a mental prison about, Gemini talks about our dualistic nature and being in two minds about things. And that's when people can be like, uh, you know, feeling like I would have to pick a side or pick a path. Am I going to be more independent and stand up for myself and defend my more hopeful, believing, loving nature and people in my life who are encouraging and supportive and loving? Or am I going to kind of align with people in my life who I might love, but they are kind of more like, I feel like if I stand up for myself, they'll be mad at me. And I'm kind of in a mental prison about them being mad at me because I look to them to be these loving and nurturing and supportive people in my life. And if that's when you kind of find out where their primary loyalty lies, like people can go invest and go get married to people, but their primary loyalty is still to their friend group or their family group. And they're not willing to stand up for the people in their life because they're still more codependent and kind of let those people manipulate them. And we can't blame the third parties. The third parties are really just trying to illuminate us to the truth of what's going on within the people that we're in relationship with. That, they kind of got, they wouldn't invest in those things or those people if it is revealing something that they're kind of emotionally anchored into that they haven't really worked through yet. And that's when sometimes some of the people who you thought would stand up and defend you are willing to join a shadowy crowd that's against you, you know? And then that can be really confusing, and it kind of forces you to deal with the truth and love yourself. That's what I view High Vibe Leo, where you give yourself the things that you wish other people would have given you, and to just deal with the truth of it, Now, if you quit standing up for yourself and loving yourself and were to be more in a mental prison, well, then it's kind of like letting other people bully you and manipulate you. Well, then if you let them bully you and manipulate you and you accept that they're a third party in this relationship, but high vibe people want the third party in their relationship to be truth and love and justice and fairness, but that isn't the third party in some other people's lives. Is pettiness, jealousy, envy, manipulation, control, egotism, you know, conforming to the world. And if you don't conform to the world or conform to me and let me manipulate and control you, then I will try to, I don't know, stop you, like from your dreams coming into reality. And our own shadow nature doesn't want us to love and believe in ourselves, because then our shadow nature, our more immature shadowy nature, is in the driver's seat of our life. So we need to see the truth of it. Everybody has free will to choose to grow up and mature themselves emotionally, deal with their fears and insecurities, invest in freeing themselves, because shadowy Capricorn is represented by the devil, which again is our shadow nature, to see the truth of all these things that manipulate us. Our pride, our ego, our immature nature, our controlling nature has to be more about me nature, trying to manipulate people, think we need to be the center of attention, our lust, our greed, all those things. Until people do this work to work through those things, the enemy, at the big picture, kind of represented by the devil, is kind of running their life. And before, Because some people are very loving and nurturing. They could be like, oh my goodness, I see someone who's manipulated by things. I'm going to try to get them to free themselves. Well, it's one thing if you're just a friend who can be loving and encouraging to people. But if you get more emotionally invested in people, then it's harder to get yourself out of it because we are these emotionally complex human beings. And it's really hard to pick up anchor from someone that we kind of more emotionally invested in. And we can all be tempted in our more worldly, egoic nature to want it to work and not want to leave it. And it gets harder and harder for us to kind of stand up. But if it's more of a mismatched relationship and you keep seeing over and over, because it's kind of like the divine trying to show us that there's something wrong here. You maybe didn't see it when you got in it, or you could have been more caught up in the world or in your ego or whatever and wanting these things, and you weren't listening to your intuition and you hadn't learned to love yourself. And now you're kind of in a predicament. Are you going to stay in it, or are you going to stand up for what you love and believe in? You can be loving and encouraging to people, but if they're not doing that work within themselves and working through those things to free themselves from it, to be more loving and things like that, well, then I got to wish you peace. And the people in my life who do invest in me emotionally, who in a relationship listen to their intuition and work together with me cooperatively, being authentic and loving and encouraging, and when they get up in their head and their fear and insecurities, they do this work within themselves to keep things in perspective and to love themselves and to listen to their intuition, to not be more bossy or controlling or manipulative. Then those are the people I'm going to keep moving forward with. And the people in my life who aren't doing that, I'm kind of going to wish them peace to work on their issues. Let me pause this for just a minute. Okay, I guess we had somebody at the door. Um, so I would view this as Virgo energy, Pisces, Capricorn, Leo, Gemini. I guess I'd kind of view that as a 5 and 7 of swords, or just the fives and the sevens. The fives and sevens are those difficult times in our life where we can move forward in something. We can have the best of intentions. Everybody can. Um, we can hope that we're all kind of on the same page and we could enjoy and work together with people for quite a period of time. But then, again, we come in contact with all these different people in the world to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And that's when, we go through these difficult stages of, are we willing to deal with the truth? Is the way that we want to move forward the same? Do we want to be in more codependent relationships? Have we kind of been illuminated to some truths and things that were hidden beneath the surface that we didn't know the truth of before, but now we do, and now it kind of has us in a mental prison if we want to keep moving forward with it? And then it's that struggle to listen to our intuition, to love ourselves and love them. And I think, the truth sets us free. If you offer love and encouragement to the people, you speak your truth about how you want to move forward. If they want to keep moving forward with you in that way, then you can. And if they don't, that can be when some people, we can all have people in our life that we could love and we wish they were going to keep moving forward with us. But if they want it to be where we let them keep moving forward with us, but they still make the free will choice that I think it's just unfair for me to be in the shadowy energy, and because you like love me and you have a hard time standing up for yourself, you should just let me come with you. It's like, but that's like having an enemy in the camp. Someone who tries to get you in your ego, someone who tries to make you defensive, someone who uses your loving nature to manipulate you. And people who love you wouldn't want to manipulate you. They wouldn't want you up in your ego. They wouldn't want you in your competitive energy. They wouldn't want you up in a mental prison. They wouldn't. You're either being open and authentic and loving and warm and encouraging, or you're not, and you're trying to manipulate someone to get them to do what you want. And it's like, your idea of what you think is just and fair and how you choose to operate in a relationship is different than what I think is just and fair and how I choose to operate in a relationship. And we can all repeat past patterns. Pisces can talk about things that are kind of buried in our subconscious that we don't kind of maybe realize, or we're drawn and attracted to certain people, but we might be drawn and attracted to certain people because there is something kind of buried in our subconscious about the way we view ourselves, the way we view others, the way we view life, the world, relationships. And until we kind of work through that and kind of be drawn and attracted to certain people, those are some of the people that are the people I would say that the divine knew could be people who was going to illuminate this for us. And these issues within ourself or challenge us. Do I love and believe in myself? Am I going to let people manipulate and control me? Or am I going to stand up for what I believe in? And again, we can get attracted to people who could remind us of people in our life that we've known, that maybe those people weren't as loving and nurturing or just or fair or whatever as we would have liked them to be. And now that we're older and we can get in like romantic relationships with people, we can subconsciously kind of be drawn to investing in people who have emotionally some of those same types of traits and characteristics, because we were kind of in our ego about the fact that we had people like this in our life that we wanted to have this kind of more loving relationship with, but they had their own issues, so it didn't work out, but we're still kind of in our ego about it, and that's why we can be drawn and attracted to certain people. Now, because we can have these subconscious reasons why we're kind of drawn and attracted to people, that can be why some people decide, I'm no longer listening to my intuition. I was drawn and attracted to people and it didn't work out. So now I think I'm the boss. I'm not going to listen to my intuition, even if my intuition, and I am kind of drawn and attracted to someone. Well, for one, we can all be drawn and attracted to people and we know we shouldn't get in a relationship with them. That's different. Where other people just, even the people, I mean, we probably all at different times in our life told our friends, like, you have to help me pick out who I should go out with because my picker is wrong. you know? But the whole thing is, we were meant to learn lessons from that life experience. And if we take the lesson we were meant to learn, and if we're willing to deal with the truth, did I get myself in relationships with people I had no business getting in a relationship with? I knew they weren't more loving or nurturing or warm. Why am I drawn and attracted to people who aren't? You know? Do I think I can change people? Is that what I think kind of validates my worth and value? Like I have to earn people loving me. Well, loving people are just loving. How about we go find people who are just more loving and we quit getting in relationships with people who aren't, and love ourselves? How about we get out of our ego, quit looking to the world to love us and validate our worth and value? We love ourselves, we're loving, and treat other people the way we like to be treated. And if they don't respond in kind, We see the truth of it, we wish them peace, and we kind of keep our distance. I don't need you to like me. I accept that there's all sorts of different people in the world. And if I'm treating you in a just and fair way, and I'm not trying to manipulate and control you, and I'm not full of myself or whatever, why can't we get along? Well, maybe because that's really not how they operate in the world. Well, quit trying to get people who don't operate from a more just and fair and cooperative way to change. Just let them be the type of person they are. Don't get in your ego about it that they don't appreciate you or don't love you or like you. They probably don't like anybody who's like that. And they really, if anything, would just try to tear you down. And that can be why some people kind of act like that to begin with. It's like, well, if I don't feel I can manipulate and control you, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. I only like to be in a relationship with people who are in a mental prison and still in their ego about people like me who act like this, because then I can manipulate and control like a loving person who doesn't know their worth and value. And that I like that kind of relationship dynamic. Well, when are we going to say, I don't like that kind of relationship dynamic? And there could be some people right now, for some of you that have went through this, and you are kind of just living your more authentic life. I mean, the best energy, I would say, is to just go out in the world feeling balanced within yourself, and with this being the main female and this being the main male, in my emotional nature and how I take action in the world, I'm balanced and I do it from a place of authenticity and love. I'm not trying to present myself as something different than I am. I treat people in a just and fair and balanced and loving way. And it's kind of like spreading the good news. Who wants to work together with me in this energy? There's going to be people who are like, just don't like you because you're not trying to manipulate and control them. You're not acting bossy and controlling. You're not acting arrogant. If you did, they'd maybe get in a relationship with you or want to befriend you. But it's like, I don't want to be in that kind of relationship dynamic. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of the relationship dynamic I'm used to. Either I do it or you do it. One of us has to do it. I was like, well, that's not me. It's like, okay, well, then you can go. But then, because you just are maybe more balanced within yourself, uh, there can be people who are hiding that they'd like to be in a relationship with you, but they just have some fears and insecurities to work out. And then there's other people who are maybe in their more worldly, egoic nature who don't like that you don't use your looks or your charm or your sexuality or whatever you got going on to try to manipulate other people because they know they do. And they see you don't. And then they're afraid that other people will align more with you than with them. And then some of those people can't understand why, because we can all stay in denial of the truth. Some people are kind of full of themselves. Some people could look very victorious and successful or shine in the world in some way, and they don't understand when they have all these things that they think are so important, but they're not authentically loving, why other people can stay so much up in their head about the loving people in their life. Well, I act like that and I dress like that and I have this and I have that. It's like, yeah, but yours is more done from your mind and your ego. Like you can quack like love and act like love, but are you authentically loving? And other people listen to their intuition about who's being authentic and who's not. But some people are still in a mental prison, though, about believing in themselves or willing to let, this is a feminine figure imprisoned, letting their more hopeful, believing, loving nature out to play in the world. And so they're probably going to have to repeat some past patterns and go through some life experiences until they are willing to stand up for themselves. And then, the people who've kind of worked through some of those things, they're looking for other people who have. And the people in their life who have, and their intuition tells them they're being authentic, that they're putting in work and effort to work with them cooperatively and authentically, they keep working with them. And the people that, as time goes by and listening to their intuition, it's like, I really think you have ulterior motives, or you don't. You try to present yourself as being motivated and inspired by this job, friendship, or relationship, but I don't really think it is. I think there's something else, or you just want to try to cheat the system and get the rewards without putting in the work and effort. What's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy that they might not see coming up? Well, we had a clump of cards fall out, and they're all upside down. We have the Page of Pentacles, the Seven of Cups, the Hermit, I'm not sure if I said that right. Page of Pentacles, Seven of Cups, Hermit, Six of Cups, and the Death card. Why? Because of the King of Pentacles. So I view the King of Pentacles as Capricorn energy. Shadowy Capricorn is represented by the Devil. High vibe people invested time, energy, and effort. You have to put in work and effort to free yourself from things that manipulate you. And you get the pentacle from your Virgo nature that does this work within yourself emotionally to deal with those things that are buried beneath the surface. You put in work and effort to illuminate the truth. You offer love and compassion and forgiveness to yourself to free yourself from things that manipulate you. And you basically communicate to your own shadow nature, I'm not aligning with you anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself and love myself and start more listening to my intuition than my more worldly, egoic, fearful, defensive nature. And you also, then when you do that within yourself, you're kind of not the same person that you might have been, and some of the people in your life aren't going to like it. Because when you were in this other energy, then you were kind of hanging out with them and aligning with them. And now, you're not in that energy, but they still might be. And they just wish you would go back and do and be the person you were, because then you'd still be in relationship with them or stay in relationship with them. And it's like, but I'm not that person anymore. I could have just healed from some of my fears and insecurities and past pain and heartbreak. And those things don't manipulate me the way they used to. So now I am kind of freed myself with love for myself. And I just don't think and act and respond the way I used to in life. And you offer love and encouragement to those people, but then they would have to work through their issues. And some people have some conflict about dealing with those issues or standing up for themselves or loving themselves. Like, well, no, you were just supposed to love me. It's like, well, I can't. It's like somebody holding out their cup for you to fill their cup emotionally, but they poke holes in the bottom of their cup. So you're constantly having to fill their cup. And they don't want to plug the holes and learn how to fill their own cup. No, that's your job. You do that. It's like, but that's not my job. All I can do, and that should be required of me, is that everyone has to put in this work and effort to free themselves. I am not the answer to your problems. Some people look to people to get in a relationship with them like they look to drugs or alcohol. You will be the answer to my problems. And they get in those relationships and they think you are the answer, but they never dealt with their issues, and all their issues still manipulate them. And then they act in these kind of shadowy ways in a relationship. And then they could think, you're not the answer. I need to go find someone else. I'm going to emotionally kind of turn my back on you, and I'm going to go take action. Someone else must be the answer because you didn't solve my problems. It's like, I can't solve your problems. Only you can solve them. But for some people, that's not their truth. Well, no, I don't do this work within myself. I don't think that is the answer. The answer is outside myself. So I'm going to indulge in these things of the world, and I'm going to maybe make it more about me and my status and my ego and my image or money or materialism. And if I have these things, or I have a certain type of relationship or something, that will be the answer. But I think they're going to find, the answer lies within us. We hold the key to emotionally free ourselves from what manipulates us, but some people haven't realized that yet. Anyway, some high vibe people did. And they did that inner work. They're no longer aligned with their more immature nature, no longer caught up in the illusion of themselves or these things of the world. And they're done hiding from the truth. They already did the inner work. The Hermit is Virgo energy of doing that inner work within. And they did it. And they don't want, in the Six of Cups, to keep repeating this pattern of the past, because it's over. It's done. They lived life at a phase of life. They learned the lesson they were meant to learn. And now they're ready to move forward in life, and they're communicating to their own shadow nature and other people who are kind of shadowy in their life. I'm not repeating that pattern. And if that's what you want to keep doing, then you can. And so then the high vibe people were willing to detach from people in their life who maybe wanted them to be a more codependent energy, maybe a more emotionally shallow, superficial, intimidating, controlling, caught up in the world energy. I have a fly buzzing around, that's why I'm moving my hand like that. Other people who don't want to do this inner work, other people who maybe don't want to emotionally be more balanced within themselves or in their relationships, and people who are in non-loving energy or don't want to give birth to anything new. They're just kind of more caught up in themselves or the world, and they're happy with it. It's like, well, then that's great. I'm going to let you go be happy with someone else. But I'm cutting out people who harness more shadowy earth sign energy. We all, in our more earth sign energy of Virgo and Capricorn and Taurus, and our fire sign energy, we all used to be more inspired and caught up in these things of the world. I think you could be a loving person, but we're all pretty caught up probably the first 30, 40 years of our life in these things of the world. All these things we want to go indulge in, all these things that we think will make us happy. And we went and did it, and some people were like, huh, there can be things I do like about it, but then they kind of get more inspired. Like, I want to be in jobs I enjoy. I could have been in a job more for career or status or image. I could have been in relationships for reasons like that. I could have thought, whatever people thought. And it's like, I'm kind of more inspired to really not let the world and all these things kind of dictate my actions. And other people can live their life, and if they enjoy it, that's fine. You enjoy it. But I might want more deep, meaningful, authentic relationships, and maybe with people who listen more to their intuition than these other things, and people who are maybe more inspired than more than themselves or these things of the world. And I don't want to be in relationships anymore with people who seem to not have any interest in learning lessons or growing or healing and maturing themselves, and might lack self-insight or self-awareness even about why they do what they do. And if people want to keep repeating this old pattern, I have been there and I have done it, and I don't want to repeat that pattern anymore. So Virgo energy also can represent like the 8 and the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles. And that can be completing a cycle. And when we've kind of completed the cycle and learned the lesson we were meant to learn about it, we're ready to go have this new beginning and move forward in life differently. And while you move forward to like the next phase of life, Other people are going to some people in your life are going to keep repeating, and in the world, repeating a pattern, because you can try to fake the next level of life, like going and applying for a job you're not really qualified for, or you really are who you say you are. And the other people are going to have to keep repeating this pattern until they are ready to deal with the truth of kind of what manipulates them and learn to love themselves and stand up for themselves, or they'll just keep repeating this pattern. And some people, they have no interest in stepping out of their comfort zone, facing their fears, growing, healing, and maturing themselves. They want to do this pattern over and over and over, and they try to get in relationships with people hiding the truth that they do not want to like give birth to anything new. They are more anchored into their defensive nature, their egoic nature, their indulgent or materialistic nature, and they're just going to try to get someone else kind of trapped in a relationship with them, and hoping that for whatever it is they think they bring to the table, that the other people won't leave. And then they think they'll be happy. But I think they're always afraid, because there's a lot of things. People can wear really good masks, people can have a lot of status or image, or be attractive or charming, or have social clout or whatever. The one thing they can't control is people listening to their more hopeful, believing, intuitive, inspired nature. And they're always afraid that the people they're in a relationship with will do that. So then once they get people in the relationship, because of that fear that they'll want to do things differently, they do try to control, and they do these kind of deceptive and manipulative things that could be kind of hurtful and unkind and create confusion, and the people in their life kind of get in a mental prison, like, why is this person acting this way? And then those people put a lot of work and effort, and it's kind of like maybe this kind of back and forth, so long as you don't go. But if you ever get illuminated to the truth that I kind of really am not on the same page as you, and I'm really maybe not more authentically emotionally investing in this, I want to present myself maybe initially as kind of a loving, nurturing person who will protect you, but I don't want you to ever be more independent and be more authentic and creative and inspired in the world, because they don't do that. And so that can be, it's kind of like the devil trying to present themselves as God. But God wants you to be more independent. God wants you to work through these things. And the other people kind of keep doing things subtly or blatantly to keep you up in your head about knowing your worth and value and questioning what you bring to the table, so that you keep trying to work on this relationship. But they never plan to give birth to anything new, because it works for them. They're happy with it. And so long as it works for them and their ego and their image and indulging in the world or them, they're good. And it's really just more all about them. And until people see the truth of it, they'll stay in it. If people do see the truth of it, then you've become the enemy, because you saw through the illusion and you saw the truth of who they really are, which they don't really do love. And then you might be someone they want to backstab and betray and deceive and confuse other people about the truth of who you are. And the high vibe people, they work through it, they eventually get all over it, and they move on, and they let them go do that with someone else. What's coming up for the people who are in a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy that they don't see coming up? Ooh, it's a lot. Six of Cups, the Chariot, the Strength card, the Five of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, the Five of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, the Nine of Swords, and the Ten of Cups. So, I was saying I kind of view this one, well, if I didn't, I kind of view this one as Aries and Taurus energy, and Taurus kind of has to do with our philosophy of life, and it kind of dictates the decisions that we make and the action that we take in the world. And kind of almost in the middle of this reading, well, I guess if we did it like this, is this inner conflict about this Taurus energy, about our different philosophies of life. The shadowy people in the Six of Cups want to keep repeating this pattern where it's more about looking loving, because the Chariot is Cancer energy. They like to present themselves as like a loving, nurturing person, but they do operate more from their ego. And they have inner conflict about emotionally growing up and maturing themselves. Well, they could have other people in their life, whether they're friends or family or romantic interests, that want a dream to come into reality. And they would like them and have been offering them truth and love and resources for them to heal, going from the Five of Swords to the Nine of Swords as the Four of Swords, to get more balance within themselves, to love themselves, to heal, so that they can close out a cycle and have this new beginning in Gemini energy aligned more with truth and love. There's some high vibe people. Why'd this come out? Because there's some high vibe energy in general is trying to get them to work through their mental conflict about looking at life from a higher perspective, having some hope and faith and belief that there's more to life than them or their ego or their image or the past or their fears or their insecurities. To go align with their more emotionally mature, loving nature, but in their ego, in the Five of Wands, both the Strength card and the Five of Wands, you have to get out of your ego and you have to get out of your defensive nature. You have to be willing to maybe look at life from a higher perspective, that maybe if I looked at life from a higher perspective and put things in perspective, maybe there is more to life than just these things that I think is so important in the world. Maybe I'd get out of my head. Maybe I could... The fives can talk about kind of getting more balance. The sixes talk about balance. Because some people are quite tipped out of balance, viewing this as more like an Eight of Swords. Why am I so much up in my head about love or getting in a relationship or being more emotionally invested in a relationship? They might have dealt with their own life experiences, but so did everybody else, and other people were able to work through it. And that's what maybe they don't understand. I don't understand how other people who might have went through some poor experiences in their life, how they overcame it. It's like seeing the truth of it. Not everybody is the same. We could all have dealt with people who are more shadowy. Does that mean everybody in the world is more shadowy? No. We take the lessons we've learned. We listen to our intuition. We deal with the truth. Are these people acting more shadowy or are they not? And it is continuing to learn these lessons, and maybe the next one won't work out either, but we learn more lessons. Some people have gotten to the point where they're ready to really kind of get their divine inheritance, but the last step before your divine inheritance might be where you do get in a relationship with someone who wears a very good false mask, who really seems like they are on the same page as you. And again, are you willing to stand up for yourself and love yourself enough that I am not willing to stay in this because of all these things that tempt me or manipulate me or the love that I have for them? If they are not acting with character and integrity and just and fair, I am willing to stand up for myself and not keep being an illusion that some people who could have presented themselves as these just and fair and stable and grounded and acting with character and integrity people, it really is not the truth of who they are. And then then your intuition could really be on a much higher level. And you have learned many more lessons than you knew before. And you've also learned that, and probably before, that not everybody's motivated by love. And if you're a loving person, you could think, of course, everybody's motivated by love. And it's like, no, you are like the danger zone. You are a threat to everything they stand for, which is protecting themselves from being hurt. And again, even though they might want to stay in the relationship, you are a threat to them. So then they're kind of competitive in a relationship with you. Also, because they like to maybe view themselves as being like you, because they like to view themselves maybe as that type of person. But the truth is, a lot of the things that they do is more out of their own self-interest. And that can be something they don't want to see the truth of, because you're either authentically loving and giving and nurturing, or you're presenting yourself as being that type of person, but you don't really want to be that type of person. And that's an injustice, and that's what the divine is trying to get people to see. And once you kind of maybe have overcome something like that, you're no longer caught up in the illusion, and neither are some other people. And some of the high vibe people, they see the truth from the Six of Swords down to the Five of Swords. You're not moving forward invested in truth and love and justice and fairness and treating other people the way you want to be treated. You are more about creating this illusion in the world, but you don't really want to do love. And I want to go do love. And some of the high vibe people in their life are going to move on from them. And the people who might stay in a relationship with them are other people who have conflict about looking at life from a higher perspective, who also might be caught up more in these things of the world and the status and the ego or the image, or controlling or manipulating people. And they also maybe don't want to deal with the truth and grow and heal and mature themselves. And that then would be a just and fair relationship. But they might not like being in a relationship with someone like that, because then we have people who aren't really investing in truth and love. But they weren't really willing to invest in truth and love. It's like, yeah, but I want to be that way and be in a relationship with someone who isn't like me. It's like, well, that's not just and fair. But I don't really like being in a relationship with them because they're kind of like me, and they're kind of more manipulative and not very giving and not very nurturing and not authentically loving. It's like, yeah, but you aren't either. You know, if you want to be in relationships with people who are, then you need to authentically be that type of person. It's like, well, I had this illusion that I could keep operating more from my defensive egoic nature, and I just think it's just and fair for the loving people to want to keep being in a relationship with me. That'd be kind of like a bad employee and thinking people should just want to keep them there, though. And it's like, I think we're going to let you go, and we're going to try to find somebody to work here who really is kind of motivated and inspired to put in work and effort to bring a dream into reality. And of course, they're not going to think that's fair. And then they'll probably go try to find someone else to manipulate, and the same thing will happen over and over and over again. Or eventually they end up settling in a job relationship that by worldly standards looks good, but maybe neither one of them really want to be in. But until something else comes along, they'll stay in it. As long as it's good for their ego and image and it looks good. But if someone else does come along, then either one of them would be willing to get out of the relationship, because it's really just more about them. Can I find someone more willing to indulge me? Can I find someone who's more fearful and insecure so I can kind of control and manipulate them? Is there someone who has more status or image or more attractive or more clout? Because it's not really based on love. If you build a foundation that isn't built on truth and love, You're building a foundation on shifting sand, and some of these people don't want to see the truth that if they keep living more from their mind than their heart, thinking they'll be happy, keep investing in other people who might be fearful of loving and believing in themselves, eventually the high vibe people in their life aren't going to willing to keep moving forward with them. And it's like, nope, you can go and do this with someone else. And then they'll go do it with someone else. So there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.